But we were being lied to.
No, you wouldn't.
Where's Aotearoa?
You can't even look at me in the eye when you're giving me my answer right.
Why do you actually need a chief executive?
That is absolute bullshit.
And we cannot fix the district's problems with broken council. It's just an absolute train wreck according to me. Because if you put me in there, I'm taking you with me, you know. It's going to be a complete change to what we've had.
And the difference between myself and Mr. Lewis is Mr. Lewis will tell you you can't do any more to save money. I completely disagree with that. I'm meeting people every day whilst I'm out on the hustings who are telling me how expensive it is for the things that council are paying for.
I come from 25 years of central government experience. I was a diplomat for 23 years, ambassador to Poland, deputy ambassador to the United Nations. I have worked with ministers of the Crown and Cabinet for over 2.5 decades. I know how to get stuff done in Wellington. I know which buttons to push. I can deliver on objectives that we absolutely have to secure here.
Yes, we have had some high rates in my training. They are dropping. Have a look at the long-term plan. By year 6, we are under the rate of inflation, and we're sitting from between 4% down to 2% over the last 5 years of the 10-year plan. It's because I've decided to financially take care of the infrastructure deficit we have now and not lump it on to our kids and our grandkids later on.
I'm now on the Superann. It takes 6 weeks of my Superann to pay Teelan 1.5 days. You know, there's something really unbalanced about that.
Imagine you were legally required to have a 0% rate rise. 0%. And then what would you have to do? What would be the decisions that you would have to make? And more importantly, how would that challenge the way that we do things?
If you start capping rates, you will destroy the ability to actually invest in critical infrastructure. And that's what you've seen overseas.
I don't agree with those levels of debt, 700 odd million at the moment. If that's at 8% interest, that's 12 million a year over 60 years disappearing down the tubes of the banks or whoever on earth we've borrowed it off. And I think if we carry on with the same council and culture, we'll be $1 billion by the end of the next 3-year term.
Yeah, we've got an airport. We've got an airport that gives us a dividend each year. They're about to spend a couple of $100 million improving the customer journey. Well, actually, maybe we could put that off for a couple of years and get a much bigger dividend, and that would pay down some even more debt. The trust levels are so bad that people are stopping admitting that they work for council because they don't want to be harassed in the shop or the supermarket or the pub, and that is wrong.
Vast majority of those surveyed said Queenstown's going in the wrong direction.
Yeah, interesting that my fellow candidates didn't actually come up with any actionable solution here. So over the last 3 years, this council has opened up all our workshops to the public, and we now provide a recording of it that is released to the public. We now proactively release all our legoimas. We now proactively release PX or public excluded items that are no longer sensitive. We now film all of our community meetings, our committee meetings, and they're all posted online. All of our council meetings are live streamed. We have now moved to, if there is an item in public excluded and there is a part in that public excluded item that doesn't need to be public excluded, we've now moved that into public and it's split into 2 parts. So we're making actual tangible difference in our transparency. Yes, it is not enough. I acknowledge that. We still have to work on it, but there is still more to do, and we will do it.
So, from the floor, who wants to go first?
Mr. Lewis, Jason Medina here. How can we possibly believe you about transparency in council when one of your council members attempted to get the truth out to the public, what was going on with our wastewater system, and you threw her under the bus? Directly under the bus. I believe it's actually, tell us how.
Well, we provided a confidential briefing for a start. And you can't argue with me about whether it was confidential or not, because that has actually been written by a court judgment in the Environment Court. The judge has said it was confidential information. So when you receive confidential information, there's an expectation that the council is actually in collegial
But we
togetherness.
were being lied to.
No, you weren't being lied to.
Bullshit.
Well, sorry, you were not being lied to. We had a plan to talk with the ORC and then with our iwi partners, and once that decision was made, we were going to do the stand-up and release it publicly. That's what the plan was. What we had was one individual that decided they knew better and actually damaged relationships with the ORC and damaged relations with the iwi.
By telling the truth.
Sorry, there is a process you have to go through as an elected member.
You can't even look at me in the eye when you're giving me my answer, right?
I'm talking to everyone.
Okay, alright.
We told the truth. We knew exactly what was going on. We had a plan to tell everyone, and we went about it, and we did it.
Okay.
What you had, and you had 8 councillors, was 8-2. That actually said, yes, under my leadership, because the councillors asked me to do something.
And you see why we don't believe in the transparency and faith in council.
We did it up in public as well. There you go.
Okay, thank you. Next question from the...
We don't want tourists, we don't want visitors, we want temporary locals. Now, that's what we really want, and that's what our visitors or our tourists, that they want to feel part of what we do and highly engaged with us on a day-to-day basis.
So, district. I think this district has so much to offer both New Zealand and the rest of the world when it comes to actually improving the incomes and the productivity of one brilliant sector. The only thing of scale we have here is tourism. And we've got to figure out how to best leverage off that to grow other economic pillars while also improving the quality of it.
And actually, quite frankly, I think any CEO worth their salt would have said, I can't accept an increase like that when we're putting such pressure on our ratepayers. So I don't think it's a team approach. This is one where the council is doing what they want. And the best thing I've heard was, John, you saying about you could make efficiencies, because if you're saying there aren't any savings to be made, that is absolute bullshit.
Why do you actually need a chief executive?
The matter of your chief executive's salary. Now, each of the last 2 years, an 8% pay rise and then a 15% pay rise. Took them from under 400,000 to 467,000. Those are numbers that the public sees the headlines for and thinks, wow. Now, you're the man who effectively sets the CEO's salary. You're about to get a new chief executive. Do you see the new chief executive being paid the same?
Depends on the calibre of the candidate. Look, it's been a tough one. He was on a pay freeze for, I think, 2.5 years during COVID. We get professional advice on the pay bands from low, medium to high. He's judged on his performance on KPIs. It is an employment matter. You have to actually follow employment law when you actually look at these things. The discussion amongst the councillors is robust. We do challenge each other, and we certainly challenged ourselves in the last round. It is a decision of council, and obviously as the mayor and the leader I have to stand beside those decisions. He works extremely hard, I can tell you that now.
I've spoken to Matt Wood, who is the CEO of Destination Queenstown, and he told me very clearly his one and only objective was for Queenstown to be carbon zero by 2030.
Where's AOGRO?
There we go, you're sitting in it, mate.
But where it's fair enough and we're getting what we pay for. I'm not getting, I'm not out to get everything I can, but I'm not getting anything. So something would be nice.
If you don't vote, you can't complain. That's the bottom line.